The portal openside didn't wake up to an alarm clock that morning. It was something else, something quieter and louder all at once. The house was still. No cars on the road, no birds chirping outside, just a thick kind of silence like the whole world was holding its breath. But inside me, something was moving. I couldn't explain it. My chest felt tight, like electricity was humming underneath my skin. My thoughts were fast but not chaotic, more like they were being pulled by a current I hadn't felt before. That's when I knew. The portal had already opened. No grand sign, no fireworks. Just this overwhelming sense that reality had quietly shifted. And I was standing right in the middle of it. I hadn't read my horoscope. No one had warned me. But something deep in my bones whispered, "This is it. This is real." My heart was pounding like I'd had 3 cups of coffee, even though I hadn't touched caffeine in days. My hands were steady, but my soul was buzzing. And I wasn't afraid. Not really. But I wasn't calm either. It was like being called to the front of something I didn't know I'd signed up for. Looking back, I realized that moment wasn't random. It wasn't just another morning. It was the beginning of something ancient, something wild, something raw. A shift in energy that wasn't asking for permission. It was pulling me in, ready or not. And in that stillness, I understood one thing with crystal clarity. Nothing would ever feel the same again. At first, I thought I was just having an off day. Maybe I didn't sleep well. Maybe it was something I ate. But as the hours passed, the feeling didn't go away. It got stronger. My mind wasn't just racing, it was surging. My chest buzzed, like static under my ribs. My emotions were all on the surface, raw, exposed, alive. That's when I realized this wasn't anxiety. This was activation. Mercury had just moved into Aries. Most people read that as an astrological footnote, a line or two in a horoscope app. But this wasn't just a cosmic shift. It was a spiritual jolt to the nervous system, a direct current to the soul. This portal isn't loud in the way the world is loud. It doesn't scream through your phone or knock on your door. It shows up in your bloodstream. It shows up when your voice trembles, but still speaks. When your truth finally refuses to stay hidden. When the thoughts that once felt too much now feel like instructions. But here's the thing no one really tells you. Not everyone will pass through this clean. There's a difference between being spiritually curious and being spiritually trained. If you've done the inner work, faced the shadows, sat in the discomfort, learned to listen, you'll feel this portal as a kind of invitation. The pressure will still be there, but it will push you forward. If you haven't, it'll feel like everything is happening too fast. Your mind will scramble. Your emotions will spike. You might feel lightheaded, overstimulated, like your energy field is too thin for what's coming through. I felt it all. Sharp flashes of insight, old wounds bubbling to the surface, bursts of clarity that hit like lightning. One minute I was fine. The next I was tearing up in the middle of a grocery store for no reason I could name. That's the portal. It strips away your filters. It heightens your senses. It demands presence. It doesn't care how polished you are. It wants your real, and once you felt it, you can't unfeel it. The shift is in motion, and it's not slowing down for anyone. I always thought I knew who I was. Strong, grounded, self-aware. I had my beliefs, my values, my truths, tightly held and neatly arranged like framed photos on a wall. But then the portal opened, and it started ripping them down. One by one, pieces of me I thought were unshakable began to crack. Beliefs I had stood on for years suddenly felt flimsy, like paper in a storm. It wasn't dramatic, not at first. It was subtle. A slow unraveling. A question here. A moment of doubt there. Until finally, something snapped. And I broke. It felt like falling out of my own skin. Like watching the version of me I'd carefully built through choices, habits, survival, start to peel away. Not because I wanted it to, but because it no longer fit. That version of me had been performing, maybe not for the world, but for myself. I was wearing a costume so familiar I forgot. It was a costume. I didn't even realize how much I was trying to hold it together until it all came apart. The pain wasn't just emotional, it was physical. Like a tension I'd carried in my shoulders for years was finally being forced to release. Like breathing air that wasn't mine for too long. And finally exhaling. This is what the portal does. It doesn't gently ask for change. It tears down what's false no matter how sacred it feels to you. It doesn't care if the mask helped you survive. It cares about what's underneath. It was terrifying. But underneath the terror, there was something else. Something ancient. Something real. I began to see flashes of who I was before I learned to play it safe. Before I softened my edges to make others comfortable. Before I traded authenticity for belonging. The pain became a mirror, a shattered one, but still a mirror. And for the first time in a long time, I could see myself not as I thought I was, but as I truly was. Raw, unfinished, beautiful in a way that had nothing to prove. And maybe that's the real test of this portal. Not if you can stay strong, but if you're willing to fall apart, because only when everything breaks can the real you finally step forward. I used to think that if I could just get it right, I'd finally feel at peace. Say the right things, do the right things, be the version of myself that was polished, thoughtful, composed, the version that made everyone else comfortable. But Mercury in Aries doesn't care about perfect. It doesn't care if you sound wise or look put together. It doesn't want your script. It wants your truth, raw, messy, unfiltered. I remember the first time I let it slip out. Not a rehearsed truth, not a softened version, but a direct line from my gut to my voice, and everything changed. I told someone how I really felt, not in anger, but in clarity. I stopped editing myself to make others feel less threatened. I spoke what had been sitting in my chest for years, waiting to be said. And guess what? Some people pulled away. Some didn't know how to respond. Plans I thought were solid crumbled overnight, but what remained was real. The people who stayed, they saw me, not the mask, not the performance, me. And I saw them too. No more guessing, no more walking on eggshells. Just truth, standing between us like a fire neither of us could ignore. I won't lie. It was scary. That part of me that used to need control, approval, order, it panicked. But another part, the deeper one, finally exhaled. Because there's a freedom that comes with not hiding. And there's a power in knowing that clarity, even when it costs you comfort, is always worth it. This portal doesn't ask you to be soft and agreeable. It asks if you're willing to be undeniable. Not everyone will love that version of you. Some will leave, some will resist. But what stays, what rises, what meets you there, that's where your real life begins. Mercury in Aries is not here for your perfection. It's here for your permission to finally show up as you are. No filters, no edits, no apologies. And once that voice inside you gets louder than your fear, there's no going back. For a while, I honestly thought something was wrong with me. I was exhausted all the time, even after sleeping 8 hours. My head felt foggy, like I was living half a step behind everything. Some days I'd get this weird wave of dizziness, just walking from the kitchen to the living room. And emotionally, I felt like I was falling apart over the smallest things, but I wasn't broken. I was being rebooted. What I didn't realize at the time was that this chaos, the fatigue, the confusion, the emotional spikes, wasn't a breakdown. It was an upgrade. Like my soul was uninstalling an outdated version of me to make room for something more aligned, more alive, more honest. That's the thing about spiritual transformation. It rarely feels graceful. It feels like shedding skin, like scraping off everything you thought you were until the truth underneath can finally breathe. It's exfoliation for the soul, a detox that doesn't just clean out your body, but flushes out beliefs, habits, stories that no longer belong to you. I had to learn that just because something is uncomfortable doesn't mean it's wrong. We're conditioned to see chaos as a failure, to panic when things fall apart, to see disruption as danger. But what if falling apart is exactly what you needed? What if the disorientation is the sign that the old map no longer works because you've outgrown the terrain? Mercury in Aries brings heat, pressure, acceleration. And that kind of intensity shakes loose everything that isn't stable. Not to punish you, but to prepare you. The portal isn't destroying your life. It's destroying the illusion of the life that was never truly yours. And once you stop resisting the chaos, once you breathe into it, listen to it, let it move through you, you start to realize this isn't the end. It's the beginning. There's a moment in every transformation where the insight is no longer enough. You've read the books, you've journaled, you've cried on the bathroom floor at 2 a.m. You know what needs to change, but knowing isn't the test. Doing is. I remember standing in my living room, heart pounding, palms sweaty, staring at a message I'd written but hadn't sent. A message that would change everything. It wasn't dramatic, not to anyone else, but to me. It was the line between who I'd been and who I was becoming, and I froze. I told myself I'd wait until tomorrow, until I was more clear, more calm, more ready. But deep down I knew tomorrow was a trap. That's what Mercury in Aries does. It exposes the illusion of readiness. It forces your hand, not out of cruelty, but because timing is sacred. And hesitation. That's how portals close. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was instinct, maybe it was spirit. But I hit send, and the second I did, I felt it. Not relief, but release. Like a door had opened inside me, one that had been rusted shut for years. Not because I knew exactly what would happen next, but because I finally chose myself. That's what this energy demands. Not perfection, not control, just choice. Bold, imperfect, honest action. You can't overthink your way into a new life. You have to leap while your knees are shaking, your voice cracking, your heart racing at 120 beats per minute. This portal rewards courage, not calculation. It doesn't care how well you explain your truth. It wants to know if you'll live it. And here's what I've learned. The universe doesn't wait forever. Opportunities don't always come with second chances. Sometimes the window opens, and then it's gone. So if you're standing at the edge, if you feel that pull, that fire, that quiet scream inside you, don't wait. Move. Speak. Choose. Because when the portal calls, your answer has to be action. There's a version of you that almost made it. You felt them once, didn't you? In the quiet moments, late at night, when the world stopped spinning for just a second, that voice inside whispering, "There's more." The fire that flickered behind your ribs when no one was watching. They were bold, braver than you let them be, louder than you ever allowed yourself to sound. They almost rose, almost spoke, almost lived. But then, you paused. You waited for a sign. You questioned your timing. You traded instinct for logic. And by the time you were ready, the door was already closing. That's what no one tells you about portals. They don't slam shut. They just disappear. Quietly. Cleanly. And you're left standing there wondering if you imagined the whole thing. The silence after a missed moment doesn't echo. It hums. Low and steady. A background noise of what could have been. And the worst part? It's not the failure that haunts you. It's the potential. The version of you that never got to speak the truth. The one who stayed hidden. Not because they weren't real, but because you didn't say yes when it mattered. I've felt that silence. It doesn't scream. It just lingers. Like a fog that never lifts. And I'll be honest. It hurts more than the risk ever did. Because regret isn't about what you lost. It's about what you never let yourself become. So if you're standing in that space right now, heart pounding, soul whispering, know this: you still have a choice. But you won't, forever. The portal doesn't knock twice. It won't wait until you feel brave. It just opens. And then it's gone. This was never about becoming someone else. It was always about returning to the part of you that was never lost, just buried. Buried under expectations, under fear, under the weight of who you thought you had to be. Mercury in Aries doesn't just burn through illusion. It baptizes you in truth, not to destroy but to reveal. And if your heart is still pounding, if your chest feels tight in the best kind of way, if every word in this journey has stirred something ancient in you, then it's not too late. You're not too far. The portal is still open for now, but you have to choose to leap, to trust, to come home, not to comfort but to truth. Because the version of you that's waiting on the other side, they're not new. They're just finally ready to live as you were always meant to.